Greetings, YouTube! The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And welcome back to the channel that takes power gaming to the next level. Today on the Doctor Spell Prognosis, we're going to be talking about the spell Regenerate. We are going to be giving this spell, we're going to be giving it a C+, but its grading goes up quite a bit if there are certain rules that are being used within your game, and we're going to talk about those. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when I've got another video out. All right. Regenerate is a 7th level spell that is usable by bards, clerics, and druids. It takes 1 minute to cast, range of touch, verbal, somatic, and material component, which is not worth anything, and that's worth noting because some of the other spells that do similar things cost quite a bit of cash. Lasts for an hour. School of Transmutation. So you touch a creature and stimulate its natural healing ability. The target regains 4d8 plus 15 health right off the bat. So 4d8, so d8s are 4.5 times 4. So they're going to heal 33 points of damage on average right off the bat. Now, if you are a Chalice Druid or a Circle of the Stars Druid, and you have your Chalice up, they're actually, we're going to look at that here. I've got one other thing that I want to talk about here, but we're going to visit that very quickly. Circle of the Stars, Chalice Druid. So a constellation of a life-giving goblet appears whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points. This is a spell that uses a spell slot and it restores hit points. Check, check. Whenever you cast a spell, it restores hit points. You or another creature within 30 feet can regain an additional 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier. So again, that's about another 8 or 9 points of damage that you can do. So now that 33 becomes 42, 41 or 42. And, that's pretty, well, if you're 10th level, which you are, then the challenge becomes a 2d8. So that now becomes a 13. So now that 33 becomes a 46. So when you cast this spell as a druid of the Circle of Stars, it's going to restore on average about 46 points, which is a lot. That's a lot in 5th edition. And then in addition, for the duration of the spell, the target regains 1 hit point at the start of each of its turns, 10 hit points per minute, and it lasts for an hour, so that's 10 times 60 or 600 points. So this is a good out of combat healing if you need to do that without, and if you don't have time to take a short rest or a long rest, then you can slap this on. You can give somebody quite a bit of healing, and they don't have to take a rest. So the second part of this is the target's severed body members, fingers, legs, tails, so on, if any, are restored after 2 minutes. If you have the severed body part and hold it to the stump, the spell instantaneously causes the limb to knit to the stump. So this part of the spell, this part here is just a really hopped up healing. The second part of the spell is pretty worthless if you are not playing with rules that garner severed body limbs. And so again, it's just a hopped up healing spell. Otherwise, and it depends on what rules you're playing with and how often they happen. If they happen a lot, then where there is a significant risk to this, then this spell all of a sudden goes up to an A because it's needed to mitigate those circumstances because your character can't do a whole lot if they don't have arms or legs. So let's talk about that a little bit and where are those rules and how do they work and how would you apply this spell. So in the Dungeon Master's Guide, under combat options, there are the injury parts. So injuries, damage normally leaves lingering effects. The option introduces the potential for long-term injuries. It's up to you to decide when to check for a lingering injury, and then they give you some circumstances when it could happen. When somebody takes a critical hit, this happens quite often. When it drops to 0 but isn't killed, that happens probably as often as critical hits do. And when it fails a death saving throw by 5 or more, again, this happens less often than this, especially at high levels, but it still happens pretty often. And so here we go. Number 2, lose an arm or a hand. Number 3, lose a foot or a leg. So those are, lose an eye. You could use regenerate to regenerate an eye. So this gives you disadvantage on wisdom perception checks and on ranged attack rolls. That's horrible. You can no longer hold anything in 2 hands and can only hold a simple object one at a time. Lose a foot or a leg. Your speed is halved. You must use a cane. You fall prone after using a dash action, so you can't use the dash action, essentially. And you have disadvantage on dexterity checks to maintain balance. So you'll notice regenerate happens in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times they mention it. Heal as well. But these 3 circumstances only come back with regenerate or a few other instances. So if you are playing with this rule, this happens pretty often, and then regenerate becomes a spell. One of the other circumstances in which you could have severing of limbs is with the Sword of Sharpness. This is a very rare item, and I can't believe that this is a very rare item. It doesn't even have a bonus to hit or damage. It's a magic sword, and when you roll a 20, the target takes an extra 14 slashing damage, which is very rarely going to happen. And then you roll another d20. If you roll a 20 again, you lop off one of their limbs. And then it sheds bright light. Who cares? So this is almost never going to happen. Maybe once a year this is going to happen. Then there's the Vorpal Sword. I don't know why. This is a carryover from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but it could be a Vorpal weapon. This one at least is a +3 to hit and damage. It is a legendary. When you attack a creature that has at least 1 head with this weapon and roll a 20, you cut off one of the creature's heads. So that's instant death. Creature dies if it can't survive without the head. Creature is immune to this effect if it is immune to slashing, doesn't have or need a head, like a construct. Has legendary actions, so your big bad dragons are not going to instantly be killed, or the DM decides such creatures instead take extra damage. So this, if anybody were to have this circumstance can happen quite often. The biggest one is with the lingering damage. If you're playing with the lingering damage rules, then these things can happen quite often. It's a roll of a d20, and there is a 3 out of 20 chance, so not quite a 20% chance, maybe about 15 to 18% that you're going to lose something. Now, what are some other spells that could replace this and restore limbs? Well, Raise Dead does not, and Raise Dead costs money. So Raise Dead just raises dead. So it doesn't remove magical diseases, curses, or similar effects, and closes mortal wounds, but it doesn't restore missing body parts. However, Resurrection does do that. The spell closes all mortal wounds and restores any missing body parts, but it costs 1,000 gold pieces of diamond, which is gone after you use the spell. So I think, all in all, this spell starts out kind of as a C+, because it's just a hopped up healing spell, unless you're playing with some of the lingering injury rules, in which case it goes to an A, because those, you really need this spell, because it's free. That's the other thing. If nobody has this spell, then the only other alternative you have if somebody loses a limb or body part is Resurrect, which costs 1,000 gold. But otherwise, It just heals a lot, doesn't get rid of disease, doesn't get rid of poison, doesn't get rid of curses. But I think some of the pros to this are it costs nothing, it heals a lot, and it is not concentration. All right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.